last 10 days, we've been away from the north. As you see, we're in the land of lime and coconut here in the tropical jungle of Belize at a place called T.R.E.E.S. You could check out their website at treesociety.org. Been enjoying the jungle, and I want to give you some impressions of the jungle and how an orchard environment can work in these areas. So stay tuned. Some of the things that we noticed here, there are a few. One is everything is green. You get the odd fruit that isn't green and you get flowering, but there's green and different shades of green. Second one was that there's flowering all the time. With the number of hummingbirds here, you have to have flowers for them always. So there's a succession of trees, shrubs, and perennials that are in flower all year round. As you can see, some of these trees can be large. Get to know and start collecting your legume trees. That's a legume. I don't know what species, but there are many species of legume trees, shrubs, and even ground covers. Begin collecting them and consider their use for soil enriching and mulch material. Third one is there is an extreme vine layer in the jungle. Vines are everywhere. You'll see vines on every tree, every plant. They have to be removed off of orchard trees. So know your vines, especially the ones you can use as edibles or spices, because you can use them profusely in an orchard situation. Rain can be daily, several times a day. This is the jungle. It's green and it rains. There are dry seasons, so this is supposed to be the dry season, but it rained for 10 days while we were here. But it's sunny every day and it rains every day. Some plants for an orchard situation are really nice as interplants. This is papaya. Didn't get the taste one because the birds ate the ones that were ripe the last few days. But something like this is a great interplant just by the way they grow. A very tall plant, very thin. Put this between any two fruit trees and you'll have 3 different crops right there. So use plants that are of a shape that are tall and thin as interplants. Soil, organic matter has to be built. There is no natural soil organic matter in these soils. The decomposition is so fast. You got to build your organic matter. Sunlight comes through everything. It's not limiting as it is in the north. So you can grow a lot of plants, a lot of trees, and a lot of every kind of plant in the shade, and many of them need shade. So use that to your advantage. The jungle is green. Some people would look at it as ominous. It can lead to a little bit of a sense of claustrophobia because you really don't see very far in the jungle. Most of the views you get is 10 or 20 meters. Rarely you'll get a vista of 50 meters in the jungle. And so I don't blame people for clearing land. If you experience the jungle for a while, you really appreciate any area that would be cleared. And the difference or the demarcation between a jungle area and a clearing like we have right here is huge. As soon as you're out, you get a very different sense. So don't blame people for clearing the jungle. Spend time in the jungle and you'll appreciate why. I wouldn't be surprised if northerners would clear a lot more land than locals, because locals are used to the feeling of closed in, and they'll clear around their houses, but they don't need such huge areas cleared necessarily. So the difference between jungle and open areas, experience it and you'll appreciate why people do clear. Let's look at a few points for the orchard. And there are several orchards on the property here. So some of the things I've noticed for orchards that work. Crop trees can grow very large in an orchard. So really consider how you're going to harvest, how high you want them to grow, and really logistics of harvesting in an orchard here is something to be considered beforehand, because crop trees can be, some of them almost as big as the jungle trees themselves. Imagine if I was walking along. There's a great opportunity in these areas for silvopasture, putting animals below the orchard trees. Saw very little of it, but a great opportunity because many of the trees do grow quite large. So imagine if you put in small cattle and they're going to eat up to here. You don't really lose a whole lot of your crop production, but you'll have the opportunity to recycle nutrients, to eat some of the grass, trample some of the grass preferably. Mob grazing, didn't see any examples of mob grazing in this area, but it would be a great thing to use. The other thing I didn't see any of is electric fencing other than at the Belize Zoo, but electric fencing isn't really known. It's barbed wire that predominates. So a lot of simple ideas could be integrated into orchards, even areas that are pastured, to just make them more productive and allow a greater diversity of plants and especially trees among, this is a tree environment, and having trees in pasture would be a very logical thing. A shame to see all the citrus groves which are growing around here without any animals. That's a terrific loss of opportunity since most of the citrus grow at about this height. So there are things that could be done very easily in these areas. Another one about the orchard is that there are a lot of wildlife, birds, mammals, that feed on fruit and nuts. Most of them, in fact. So whatever you want to grow in an orchard, I would suggest you grow twice as much than what you need, because the wildlife will help themselves to a lot of your fruit. So grow twice what you need. Otherwise, you'll be spending a lot of time and effort controlling or helping prevent wildlife from eating your fruit. So just grow more. Most fruit trees here that you could have in the orchard, depending where they're growing, each tree is an ecosystem in itself. There are very few trees here that grow without epiphytes, or plants that grow upon other plants that then become habitat for creatures like this beautiful butterfly. It's an ecosystem. It's not just individual trees. And if you start to think of trees here as being individuals, you're going to miss it completely. Each one is a habitat. It's an ecosystem. So you have all different matter of epiphytes. You have all kinds of vines that will try to establish, and in the orchard they're often removed because they can overtake the tree. But consider the more diversity you have, and this is a wonderful little guy, not afraid of me at all right now. The more diversity you have, the less chance you'll need to intervene with any kind of toxic chemicals. Learn your snakes. I don't have a snake here. Actually, I didn't even see a snake for 10 days. Most of them live in the trees. There's only a couple species here that are venomous, but there is about 15 species normally found here, or maybe more. So learn them and know that the majority are harmless, live in the trees. So they're mostly good, and they all do an important role. So please don't persecute all snakes, because a few can be dangerous. Learn the dangerous ones first. Another thing, diversity is immense in these areas. You can have fruit all year round on trees. take advantage of it, have fruit available all the time. The other thing is the season length. There's a lot of plants. We had the example, went to a nursery, and avocados, if you planted the earliest avocados and the latest avocados, as well as having a mid-season, you could get 9 months of avocados in trees. So huge diversity possible, not nearly as seasonal as it is in the north. And you can hear by the birds around, always birds. So again, plant twice as much as you need. Another thing, people have lived in these areas for a long time, civilizations even, without the use of any synthetic chemicals. So it can be done again. We even have some better technology, if you like, but it can be done. People can live in these environments very well, support a lot of people, eat well, live well, enjoy the sunshine.